Hello everybody. It's a sunny, blustery day here in San Francisco. I know that my little homemade mic buffer, wind buffer works, but it's not perfect, so there will be some extraneous wind noise, and if you can put up with that, I promise to deliver a commensurate endowment. It's my intent to talk about, quote, the phenomenon, unquote. But I'm going to start with something a little weirder. So, it's not clear when it began, maybe sometime, it probably began when humans began, but sometime in the 90s we began to hear this particular word, manifesting. And this is associated with various kind of New Age people. And it isn't a single thing. There are no words that refer to a single thing. Even the words that seem to refer to a very simple thing, like a car, do not refer to a single thing. There are no single things. Find one. If you can find one, let me know. We use tokens to refer to phenomena we do not understand. And I don't mean that our understanding is incomplete, because all understanding is incomplete. What I mean is, having acquired the words, we generally fail to pursue their reference. So, concomitantly with this arisal of manifesting, we began to receive media from various media makers in writing and film. What the Bleep Do We Know is an example. A film that made me quite angry, actually. Not because I don't think we're ignorant, but the replacement for ignorance offered by What the Bleep Do We Know is absurd and cannot be true. And so we began to see this dovetailing of quantum physics with manifesting, which is a catastrophic misunderstanding of quantum physics. And the problem is that the thing with which, the features of your awareness with which you know stuff or think, are not actually the trustworthy features of your awareness. And without the trustworthy features, those usually relatively remedial features would not function at all. And so the problem is, are you collapsing waveforms into the future? It may be. Is it quantum mechanical? Almost certainly not. And the faculties that you use to disambiguate your experience, which is the only thing you actually have, there's a vast library of such faculties, and the one that we refer to with the word knowledge is the least trustworthy of them. Most often, this represents a little library of conveniences with which we dismiss the actual depth and mystery of our own nature, origin, actual understanding, insight, awareness, and so on. This is well known to practitioners of authentic mystical experience. And you will not generally hear, you will rarely, more rarely, hear them talking about knowledge than they do about unknowing. This is very important. What is meant by this unknowing thing? One Roshi a Zen person once said, "Only don't know." This isn't a quip. This is the key to everything. But here's the thing. The way you pay attention, the purposes for which you're paying attention to anything, change you and your experience. There is no way to know what's actually going on. And part of the reason why there's no way to know what's actually going on, except in a relatively limited scope of concern, right? You can know, is the water hot? Yeah, sure. But transferring that to all other phenomena, that trivial kind of knowing, is insane. So when you change how and why, particularly why, you're paying attention to anything, your life path, the future, your history, your dreams, so forth, it changes you. And it changes how you see. And it changes what emerges to the aspects of your awareness that determine what you value. So, quantum mechanics is not required. You can change your life merely by, and your mind, and your awareness, and your capacity for awareness dramatically by changing how you are attending the features of your experience, and particularly why, because it turns out that our purposes determine the species of their products in the same way our parents determine, many of our characteristics as living beings. All phenomena, from the simplest to the most complex, and there are no simple phenomena, and there are no complex phenomena, those two distinctions are a result of how we are attending phenomena, not the phenomena themselves. Every phenomena is infinitely complex, layered infinities of complexity, even the boiling of the water. So we presume, for example, that the stuff we're familiar with is simple and the stuff we're not is complicated. It's not true. It's a matter of how we're paying attention and why. And if our desire is to see it as simple, we will succeed. If our desire is to see it as complex, we will succeed. The more difficult thing is the desire to see more clearly and deeply. That desire is also self-fulfilling, but it requires the willingness to enter into intimacy with ourselves, nature, ideas, language, thought, and so forth. So bear that in mind when you hear people telling you things like, "Oh, your awareness, it's collapsing the quantum, the Schrodinger's wave." Right? It's collapsing the wave state. Yeah. Not necessarily untrue, but not true in the way that it's proposed. Now, you can dream your way into futures for yourself. Everyone does this. Most of us don't do it actively. Changing that to an active relationship is going to dramatically affect your experience. Is that because manifesting is real? No. Manifesting has merely captured that feature of our nature and is representing it for sale. Like religion does, like features of science do, like medicine does, and so forth. So this is a common problem for us. Our capacity for insight, learning, awareness, understanding, play is captured, and then we're sold back the dead inside broken results by some fucking collective at ever increasing prices and ever decreasing benefits. It's an old game. Language is central to this game. So, I'm going to try to wreck your ontology a bit today, which is mostly what I'm up to. Because the ontologies we favor and have been enchanted or hypnotized by. Easy. What? What are you doing? What? It's not good. Don't attack each other. Yeah. Hi, beauty. Hi, sweetness. Yeah. Hello. I see you. Oh, yeah, you have a hurt eye. I see. Yeah, I see. You've had a rough go, haven't you? I understand. This goose has been subject to attacks, and most of her tail feathers are missing, and she's missing her right eye, which means that her left hemisphere is inhibited. Yeah. And there was some aggressiveness among the geese. This is kind of a problematic season for them. And I was attempting to calm one of the aggressors in this little clade of 8 geese, and she noticed the spirit of what I was doing and approached me. Hi. I suspect that this goose is female, but it may not be true. I haven't vetted her. There is a protocol you can apply to determine the gender of the goose, physical gender, which is a real thing, by the way. Physical gender is a real thing. But again, what you see depends on what you're looking for. And so to say, anything about gender is to adopt a purpose in speaking, right? And if our purpose is to see the variance, then we will see the variance. This doesn't dismiss the foundation. You can't have variance if you don't have a basis, right? So both things are true. Or, both things are true, uniquely, differently true, depending on how we approach them. But I'm not here to wrestle about political correctness and gender and so forth. The fact that there are twilight states of gender in nature in no way obliterates the ideas of male and female. And similarly, the ideas, the sense, the reality of male and female in biology doesn't obliterate the variance either. But to say that only one has primacy is to try to tell other people how to pay attention. However, I don't side, but I'm inclined to maintain the complexity of the situation and also to maintain the awareness under, ideological stress that there are actually male organisms and female organisms. No basis, no variance. Twilight doesn't defeat dawn, sunset, noon. Right? The fact that there's a between phase is interesting. It doesn't supervene over all other phases and eliminate them. Not by itself, anyway. So where are we going here? All right. The phenomenon, quote unquote. So I want to make a distinction here because I want to talk about a more specific branch of this problem. Over the past perhaps 20 years, the entire domain of non-ordinary experiences among humans has suddenly acquired a collective label, the phenomenon. And weirdly, at the top of that pyramid of strangeness, or Christmas tree, whatever you like, is UFOs and UAPs. I'm just going to call them UFOs. So, one apology. Now, let's be clear. In how we start out, I want to be clear in how I'm starting out here. And I really want you to take a moment to think carefully about what I'm about to say. None of the humans that I know, and there are a few exceptions, but most of these exceptions are very exotic. They are people who've spent their lives trying to awaken, right, from the sleep of knowledge. Or they are exotic individuals who have a very unique way of being human. Some of these people may have a much better idea about, quote, what's going on than ordinary people do. And ordinary people would not be able to understand their ideas. They could hear them, they could probably understand what they're saying, but if they said something to you, for example, like, existence is multi-layered. There are non-physical layers. The physical layers are expressions of the non-physical layers, and the physical layer itself is mostly not there. It's mostly an illusion. And you can think, well, that just can't be true. My door is there every time I wake up. The things in my room haven't moved. You know, I know what a shoe is. All these things. Those things aren't untrue, but you have the same problem with, where you put the precedence. So if you put the precedence on you don't exist, which is true in the sense of much closer to truth than where the humans usually play, not true in the place where the humans usually play. But if you want to put the precedence there, just try to understand that on a football field, if you put the nucleus of an atom at the center, it's going to be unimaginably tiny if you're making a model of it, and the electrons will be maybe even outside the football field, which means that these things that we think of as solid are not. And the little model you have in your mind of electrons orbiting a nucleus is wrong. It's a cartoon, it's a simplification of something that no human understands. Probably has a lot more to do with resonance, frequency, stabilization of resonance and frequency over time in a layer of reality. So my point is that most of your body is empty space. And when I say most, I don't know the percentage, but a wild guess would be 99.5% of you is empty space. So you are a lot like a strange kind of bubble produced by time-space. And I want to clarify a couple of other things before I get too carried away here, and I intend to get quite carried away. The first one is, there are no features of your experience that do not come from time-space. Their actual origin is transcendental to the material layer, and I'm not asking you to believe me, I'm just giving with what I've come to understand. I'm giving with what I've come to understand. So, when you look at organisms on Earth, the idea that Earth is some privileged environment, unique among all the endless infinities of planets in the universe, is insane. This is like people living on an island thinking we're the only island with life. And they're very careful not to look for life in the ocean. They stopped looking for life in the ocean a long time ago, the ocean being time-space. Now what they're after isn't life, so they're literally not looking for life. They're looking for what they call the building blocks, because apparently life is a machine in their minds. It's not. So everything that you see here is an expression of time-space, including the music of my own voice. There's no other place for it to be. You exist in a layered array of womb-like manifolds. Right? The surface of the planet, within the atmosphere, the effects of the moon on that manifold. That manifold exists within the effects of the sun, without which you got nothing. No minds, no religions, no arguments, no math, no creativity, nothing. So I want you to turn your idea of the sun inside out and see that imagine that the sun is actually the manifold, the bubble, the multi-bubble, the bubbling bubble of the sun's influence on interstellar space. And that's a real bubble. It's a strangely shaped one. It's not a circle. And the sun is that entire bubble. That thing at the center is like the nucleus. Relatively tiny compared to the bubble.
Not American. Yeah. Or Jewish.
So, the humans have everything backwards. They think from separate Earth toward all other phenomena. That's nutso. You're not going to get anywhere. It's a blinding perspective. And they also tend to think that humans are somehow above all of this and separate from it. Impossible. Formally impossible. No chance of that being true. But people think and act as if this is the case. They try to recover little tiny features of unity from a perspective of distinction, special distinction. And that will fail you every time you make a move. It works in a very limited context. If you're trying to, for example, execute a sequence of instructions, you can get away with that. And when you get away with that, it'll convince you that you've got it right. Well, I was, able to assemble the chicken curry, so I must know what's going on. No. It's just the scope in which you were doing things is so limited that you can get away with following a set of instructions. Right? But you don't know what chickens are, and you don't know what curry is, and you have no idea what food is. And the ideas that you have mostly make you dumber every time you repeat them in your awareness or behavior. So those aren't ideas yet. We need to have a different word for concepts that make you dumber every time you touch them. And that is most of what, quote, human knowledge is about. Exceptions noted. So sometime in, probably beginning in the late 90s or whatever, the separate concern with what are UFOs, oh, this is a great one, we're going to have some fun with this, became muddled up with all of non-ordinary experience, and this became a weird library in which UFOs were kind of the top of the pyramid. I know this is a sort of archaeological pun there, which is ridiculous. Unless we include everything. If you include everything and realize, like, wow, there are no non-ordinary phenomena, now you're getting somewhere, right? That's much closer to the truth than anything most of us will ever think during our lifetimes. Because we associate familiarity with ordinariness. So the fact that I've seen 10 to the X number of trees in my life makes me confused and think, I know what that is. It's a tree. Great, I got a token for a thing with infinite qualities. That's called excerption, by the way. And it's very compelling to the left hemisphere-like aspects of our thinking minds. In fact, the left hemisphere-like aspects of our awareness would prefer that there were no other position. They would like to obliterate everything that's not graspable, controllable, and tool-like in the universe, not just on the world. Oh, but back to the womb manifolds thing. So you've got the sun, and then outside that, you've got the galaxy, which is the next phase of the womb manifold that produces you. This instant's producing you right now. It's not like it produced you historically and then went away. Right? It's just like your mother is still alive, and you're in the womb of the surface of the earth, the atmosphere of the earth, the moon's influence, the sun's influence, the relationship between the solar system and the other solar systems within the galaxy itself, its relation with other galaxies, time-space itself. These are a layered array of womb-like manifolds that are producing you instant to instant, right now. You don't have a separate, continuous existence from anything. You never did. In fact, you, particularly your personal identity, do not exist. That is a bunch of fictions that were invented to replace your actual situation for the sake of convenience, spinning down vigilance, and other remedies. Time-space itself, which we think of as infinitely vast, having no idea what even extent means in this universe, is probably minute in comparison to that which produces it, which I assure you is transcendental to anything you've ever considered thinking about, even if you think about God. I mean, not trivially, trying to think about God is like trying to swallow the sun. There's no chance of you succeeding. The fact that you have a token to refer to this, not helpful. Very unhelpful. So, if we expand the phenomenon to include all phenomena, and we say these are transcendental to what we think, we're going in a good direction. We're inclined to normalize the stuff that's familiar and ignore the stuff that violates that normalization game. Or we try to cram it into an existing category on the bookshelf of human conceptual lexicons, oh, it's a this. UFOs are guys in spaceships from another planet. While that's not probably explicitly untrue, in other words, there are 0 instances of human encounters with UFOs that are not people from another planet in spaceships. The phenomena as it relates to UFOs is probably mostly not that. Okay, so where are we going to go here? The other thing I want you to understand is that humans don't know what they are. We do not know what we are. We don't know why we're alive, what life is, where we actually come from, though I've given you some hints in this conversation. You don't come from things only historically. If you're alive, your mother is alive, whether her body is gone or not. You were an organ in her body, and her mother is alive in you. And all the way back to the origin of the universe, right? Time-space, actually, is what I mean. So, we're extremely ontologically confused, and we tend to be violently defensive of these confusions. No, I know what's going on. It's this. It's just that. Right? No, it ain't. Sorry. There's nothing that is like our thinking in reality. What the thinking thing is that's an overlay on reality that we use as a kind of mapping system to navigate within it. That's not in itself unfortunate. What's unfortunate and devastating is that we take that as we take the map and we confuse it with the staggeringly intimate mystery of being, thus excusing ourselves from that intimacy. That's tragic. That's devastating. So, the phenomenon includes things like nocturnal abductions, telepathy, psychism, faith healing, touch healing, bilocation, teleportation, lost time, unusual mental states, all of these things. But I want to be really clear, an unusual mental state is the universe having an unusual mental state. It's not just that person in front of you, right? This is a very complex situation. You are the universe personating yourself. The universe personates Darren, and here I am speaking. But that personation is happening this instant. It's not just a historical affair. Oh, so-and-so got together with so-and-so, and, they did the thing, and out popped Darren. That's a bunch of bullshit. I mean, that actually happened, but the idea that that's separate from all of the womb-like contexts that continue to produce my existence moment to moment is so ridiculous that seen from, if you just flip the whole story over, you'd never for a moment prefer such nonsense to actual exploration, wonder, learning, intimacy, insight, play, love, awareness. So the phenomenon now includes basically all branches of non-ordinary experiences and encounters with and by humans. If you want the simple answer for what are UFOs, here's the simple answer. They are what you are. And you are at least as weird to them, presuming there are beings associated with some portion of the continuum of this phenomenon, Which, and by the way, just remember I'm collapsing the phenomenon just to UFOs because that's what I want to talk about today. Yeah, you're just as weird to them as they are to you. If they are transcendental, your physicality is as time and mind warping as their transphysicality is. It's unimaginable, right? This would be like if you were trapped in the tip of one of your pinkies and the only thing you could, all of your awareness was simply focused there and could not be moved elsewhere. We are just as strange to nature as nature can be strange to us. And we are also just as intimately familiar with nature as nature can be intimately familiar with us. There's just one thing going on here. There have been reports of people meeting beings that appear to arrive in, quote, UFOs. And when the humans ask them, what's going on, they try to explain that we are you. This doesn't mean, as some humans like to pretend, though it's possible that there's a branch of the phenomenon related to this. It doesn't mean, no, we are humans, we are you from the future. Okay? There are 9 other ways to see that are at least as interesting and probably more profound. And the most obvious thing to see is that there are no separate beings. But the humans think there are, and they treat beings as if they're separate. This cannot be the case. It's formally impossible. Time-space produces all beings, right? If you just go up the ladder of origin, even one position from where the humans usually play and think, you will immediately see that the bird and the mountain and the word and the sky and eternity and God and origin, they are a unity. They are a singularity expressed as if temporality is broken and space-time is broken into little pieces of itself called beings. And these beings their nature is outside of time, but at least around here, their experience feels to them, mainly because of how they think about it, like linear time. Linear time is a construct. There's no such thing. The nature of time is so weird and astonishing, and it's not a thing, it's a being, or, it's a transcendental, it's an angel, right? It's like a transcendental principle. Us poor humans, we're stuck with these bad Lego models of what's going on that get worse over time. Over linear time. So, ordinary people trying to wrap their minds around the phenomenon, or UFOs, good luck. If you haven't been pulled out of the human Lego prison of thinking and seen it from above and been able to play from that position with knowledge and awareness, insight and learning, if you haven't been sort of pulled, if the sphere didn't take you from flatland to, 9D land at least one time, your chances of understanding the phenomenon are 0. You might be able to get some hints, if you were like a government organization or something, you might be able to get some hints from studying the phenomenon without knowing what the fuck is going on how to build certain devices. Because you can do like inference engine stuff. I once heard someone talking about, imagine that you time port a smartphone back to early humans, but not so early that they don't have tools. They would have no idea what the fuck that thing was, but they might figure out that it was possible to compose something resembling glass. Right? Because, see, they have this physical object whose existence violates their ontology. And thus it must seem, magical. It's certainly magical in its effect on their minds. Naturally they would seek some kind of an explanatory penumbra. With which they would attempt to integrate the impossibility of the object into their understanding of nature, the universe, and themselves. It's funny, I was talking about this topic last night. I tried to make my first live YouTube video. And I tested all my equipment. Everything was fine. And I started making the video. And about 15 minutes in, YouTube stopped recording the sound. I tested the mic. It was still working. I didn't notice this for another 20 minutes, so I rambled on mutely to viewers for 20 minutes. And then I saw in the chat, which I'd not been attending, there's no sound. I was like, what? And then I paused, sort of tested the mic stuff, everything was working, but the recording was useless. So I'm remaking that recording now. Here's something I'd like you to understand. Everything that exists has a relatively equal portion of abject mystery and deep weirdness. Now, depending on how you're looking at things and why you're looking at things or beings or situations, you will see, it will look to you like, nah, that's not true. A fork's not weird. An octopus is super weird. Nothing mysterious about a fork. Octopus, nearly pure mystery. Okay. But flip it over. Right? Now invert that perspective. The octopus is an organism. Organisms are everywhere around you. There's nothing as common as organisms here. The bacterial population of our planet probably equals the number of stars in the observable universe, or radically exceeds it by many orders of magnitude. The number of cell seconds experienced by life on Earth alone, presuming there are no other planets with life, is vastly superior to the 14.3 billion years of that the humans in their flat temporal analyses ascribe to the, quote, age of the universe, unquote. Understanding neither age nor universes. The humans are very provocatively declarative. Of course, what they mean is flat, linear, historical time. And it's not that that doesn't exist. It exists because humans use it, make it, think it, see it. Right? Is existence only the things that are physically continuous over time? Or is existence what you're seeing with? Or is existence what produces what you're seeing with? Right? If it's only the physical things you can see, you're looking at less than 1/1000th of 1% of what's going on. And in your lifetime, you will only be exposed to very specific environments and situations. There's no chance of you getting anything like a grip on what's going on, or what UFOs are, or what humans are, or why there are forks, or octopuses, or anything. And if you really take this in right now, right, if you get this in your bones, you're going to realize, as I have, but I was shown, I got lucky. I had somebody, I had like a tesseract pull me up out of flatland and show me the terrain, one level above where we are 12 levels above where we are, ... If you take this into your bones, I'm not trying to destroy your capacity to think. We all want our minds blown, but not so badly that we emit feces and scream for our mothers. And that's not my goal, although hopefully you got a giggle out of that. And I'm here to blow your mind back into a bubble that's capable of being a mind. And my own in the process, because just like you, I'm subject to the cognitive gravity of my human cohort. That gravity pulls me towards stupidity almost every time I make a move. It's very difficult to make moves that don't just continue on in that direction and reward themselves furiously for having done so. So if you take this into your bones, what you'll realize is that the stuff you call thinking is a toy. And you can make vastly superior toys to anything the humans have scripted you with. That stuff they're selling is mostly garbage, and it's lethal to insight. It's lethal to intimacy. It's lethal to relationships. It is a way of forgetting. Right now, that thing you call your mind, just slightly upstream from where you're doing your thinking, are impossibilities so flagrantly ecstatic that were you to get the slightest taste of them, you would stop playing the games the humans play. You would play other games, and you would call other people to play other games with you. Now, if you did that indelicately, the humans would attack you. We have these historical stories about being nailed to trees and such. This is, whether or not that particular story took place, this is a very profound and truthful metaphor. The topics that I orbit are, quote, forbidden, unquote. Amon Hillman, who I sometimes do impressions of. Oh, God, fabulous, yeah, let's go. He also is an avatar of the forbidden, but he's a bit more of a war thing than I am. And his motivations are both similar and different. Right? That guy's mind is like a UFO. And this is part of what I mean when I say there are no distinct phenomena. Right? Everything is a UFO. The problem is the humans are looking at it backwards. They think there are separate things. There are no separate things. Yes, in cognition, in language, there are separate things. That is a tree, I am Darren. In existence, there are no separate things. Everything you see can be understood as the sun. You're seeing because there's a sun. And there's a different kind of a sun that the humans don't much talk about, that they use words like gods and angels and UFOs and aliens and things. There's a different kind of a sun inside us. Or actually, it's the star of origin, which is outside of time. The whole inside-outside thing is very confusing because there's not really insides and outsides, though, or actually what comprises inside and outside depends on how you're looking. There's a transcendental sun, right? There's this Police song. There has to be an invisible sun. Right? There's a transcendental sun that your mind is the shining of. But you're so used to using that mind to see in the ways that language and human culture incline you to and trap you in, that this light is unfamiliar to your awareness. It's intimately familiar to every cell in your body and every being that ever existed. One light casts all minds in all of time-space. All of time, all of space. One light. Just like around here, the sun. Right? The sun is a metaphor for an invisible layer of existence, or that which is being. The sun is the physicalization of that transcendental, more than merely a being. And this is why I've had to coin words like transcendent. Right? There are many, basically you yourself are transcendent. All beings are transcendent. Sentience is a sub-feature of their existence. You know, consciousness, whatever the hell that means. Most of the time it means, I don't actually know. It depends on who's using it and why, what it means. Words don't have implicit meanings. We use words to mean things to one another. Hopefully in actual conversations. So yeah, there's something that is causing existence, you know, in a non-temporalized way, in the same way that the sun is causing the existence of all life forms. Try to understand this idea, right? If you take the sun away, there are no life forms. No minds, no arguments, nothing. They don't just die. The entire localization of the complex structure of wombs that produces beings here on Earth, moment to moment, that whole thing just disappears. Whether or not its history and future disappear, the future, from our perspective in time, must disappear with it. We would not tend to think that the history disappears, but it does, because there are no people to remember it, to remember it. So back to the UFO thing. Common, modern, not very intelligent humans are thinking, we'll figure out what this is. There's no chance of that. The humans have failed to figure out what anything is. There are no veritable knowledge tokens among the humans. What you have is a system of representations. Nice to see you. You too. All of those tokens that nearly all of the humans make are markers on maps, and they don't know what the thing they're mapping is, so the markers don't give you much information. You could learn the name of every bird on Earth. It would tell you nothing about birds. You could watch the birds. That would be better. You could relate directly with them. That would be even better. But in order to understand what birds are, you're going to have to get outside of human knowledge systems. Right? And if you want any chance of understanding what UFOs are, you're not going to be able to come at it from the cruelly deceptive position of humans are separate, privileged organisms on Earth, and we're going to determine what other phenomena are. Let me be clear about something rather surprising, and I really want you to take this in. Here's how many times that has succeeded in human history. 0. The humans have experiences, they make tokens, they trade those tokens, they fight those tokens in little war games of ideology and so forth. Now there are some, how to call these? There are some branches of the ways of knowing of humans in which you can get outside the regular stuff, the Lego brick prison of concept and quote idea unquote. tokens and pointers and things. You know, in programming, I learned to use pointers to refer to a location in memory that has been structured by other code, or the code that the pointers are part of. And the pointer is used to inquire into what is going on in that memory location at a certain step in an algorithmic transformation over time, linear time, of that memory location, right? But what is the memory location? I mean, what is it really? It's a receiver of transformations. And the pointer doesn't tell me what the memory location is. All I can do is tap that location at a point in an algorithm and determine what its value is. And then I can look for conditions, right? If the value is this, then do that. If the value is not this, then do that, and so forth. What's really interesting is that memory turns out to be supra to all of human concepts, right? All of human concepts are memory toys. So what I want you to understand is that the stuff you've been playing with is junk. It was foisted on you by sometimes well-intentioned, but mostly badly intentioned idiots. That is not you, that is not knowledge, that is not understanding, that is not insight. What the humans are doing, and you can see if you just watch them as a species, what they're doing is they kill stuff off and then they celebrate the different kinds of remains they can make. Well, let's go back to I'm going to circle back here for a moment, to the incredible mysteriousness of an octopus as compared to a fork. Well, invert the perspective. What would forge a fork in time-space, right? Why would you make something? Why would you forge something that is dead but permanent? I mean, permanency is relative, right? Lifespan of the galaxy, lifespan of the sun, lifespan of the earth, lifespan of the humans. Forks do break down over time, but they're relatively permanent and they're dead. And if you watch what the humans are doing, what they're doing is they massively reproduce dead inside objects, thoughts, ideas, concepts, explanations, and so forth. And they value these over the existence of life itself as a species. Very few individual humans would do this, but humans who have, quote, a great idea. The atomic bomb was a great idea. The gasoline engine, a great idea. The electrical light, great idea. Oh my God, this is going to win. Yeah. Every time a human technological idea wins, life on Earth has to die, historically and futurally, to keep reproducing those fucking car tires. And, you know, pistons running up and down inside cylinders, right? So funny. A woman here in the garden just said, it looked like something strange had come down from outer space. I couldn't believe how big it was. I've had similar experiences of things humans have built, like the Golden Gate Bridge, for example. I don't trust those things. I can't walk out on that thing. I don't believe it's real. I don't know what the hell to do with myself. Got a couple of blue jay friends here. They're a mated pair. The boy and the girl. The boy will come to my hand. The girl won't. You think there's no gender? Really? Never had a female jay come to my hand. Probably had 50 male jays come to my hand. Female, 0. And I've got the good shit. I got peanuts. You know, for me, this guy, he's doing the old signaling thing. So when blue jays know you, they will, yeah. Hey, bud. He just did it again. He doesn't want me to leave. He's corralling me. Hey, beautiful. I learned a lesson a long time ago, though, and I'm sure if there are aliens, they learn this about humans. It's a very, very important lesson. And much of what I'm doing is dangerous, and I'm still naive. I don't have the angel's mind with me to warn me the way I once did. Yeah, so when you have something that's absolutely irresistible, and among the humans, right, among our species, gold and diamonds are not as valuable as knowledge about UFOs. It's the ultimate asymmetric reward. Because any human with knowledge about UFOs of any kind that's in any way veritable might as well be another species. They are not the same broken monkeys as the ones walking around them anymore. And there are layers and levels of that difference. You know, when I was a kid, organisms made perfect sense to me. Technological objects did not make any sense to me. Those seem to be impossible. Can you build a television yourself from scratch? Or let's step it down a bit. Do you think you could produce by hand the object we call a zipper? That shit is crazy mysterious. How the fuck did humans ever come up with that? So the humans have this weird capacity to produce non-ordinary objects which they think are ordinary because humans produce them. They're not. And there are different branches or sort of, flavors of non-ordinary. Human technology is one of them, but it's a lethal flavor. Because if you had clear awareness of what life is and is doing, you would not forge an ever-expanding array of threats to its foundations for the sake of the convenience of some person or group in their very short lifetime. The demons of our time are convenience, advertising, and the prison, war industrial system, the prison military industrial complex. Not necessarily in that order. So the existence of a fork is really weird. If you time ported a fork back to our distant ancestors, having a fork, possessing a fork might make you a god. And so we have the same problem with the UFO thing, right? Knowledge about this is the most important thing on Earth. It's a secret that makes nuclear secrets look trivial. Because that kind of knowledge... Hello. is a pointer in the direction of the traversal of time-space. And if there are, if there are beings on other planets, something has to watch over them to ensure that they don't just produce war machines, that produce war machines, that produce war machines. And the universe turns into a machine, dead inside, but very productive. And something has been watching over us very closely, particularly since the nuclear devices were first produced. But where I was going, I lost my thread with the Blue Jays. So for the Blue Jays, peanuts are pretty close to a UFO. And that thing is, it's like the most important thing. If they know what a peanut is, and most of them do, at least around here, it's a bit like giving kids heroin. It's really hard to get that much protein from anything in their environment in one go. And the proteins they get from eating insects and so forth are much more complex molecularly and energetically than the proteins in a peanut. But the peanut is concentrated protein. And that concentration is temporal, right? It has a time element. All concentrations do. When we use substances in medicine, the crucial concept is titration. Right? It's what amount over what period of time. And that's the difference between a poison and a medicine, between what kills you and what resurrects you. So, I learned with the Blue Jays that too much of a good thing gets them killed. And that's not friendly. If I want to be friendly with them, I have to bring them peanuts only intermittently. Because if I bring them peanuts all the time, they will become so focused on peanuts that the rest of their lives are in danger or destroyed. Very similar problem that the humans have with money and with language. But the UFO thing is the ultimate asymmetric thing. In the military complex, the Holy Grail is asymmetric military advantage, right? You can do things that your enemy can't do, can't predict, can't control. And any technology from non-humans conveys with it that potential. So that has to be hidden in ways much more sophisticated than how humans ordinarily hide things. You can encrypt information simply by adding ambiguity, and there's different kinds of ambiguity you can add. You can build a crazy person, okay, who does nothing but talk about UFOs. You can build a person like that. And then you can reveal that they're nuts, since you built them. Right? And then you can say, UFO thing just doesn't exist. All kinds of things. I was listening to Eric Weinstein last night. He was talking about a sort of what he called a clearinghouse for intelligence operations, right? You need to go get a downed plane in an enemy country. It's a UFO. You got to do this, you got to do that. You can hide it with UFOs. You can ambiguate it with UFOs. It's such a powerful idea that it actually, for military purposes, its non-existence is just as powerful as its possible existence. You can leverage human behavior and thought very easily with this flashlight. It's like a flashlight you shine on any human cohort, and boom, they change right now. Okay? So,
le salió otra pelota aquí.
¿Un tumor?
No sé, pero ya la...
The problem, or the nature of this thing, is holophoric. It relates to the nature of everything, and admitting it transforms the nature of everything, but not in any specifically predictable way. So you can modulate how you introduce the topic in order to direct human thought, behavior, concern, and motivations. It's very profound. Now, all topics are like this, but it's hard to find a topic that's more like this than UFOs. Though the entire range of non-ordinary phenomena qualifies. I think it's, confusing to just lump all the non-ordinary stuff together under UFOs. The phenomenon. Yes, the phenomenon is diverse. Because everything is diverse, right? There's no single thing anywhere. But our language tells us there is, and those are the only true and veritable things. Right? If you can throw away most of reality and come away with a single valued derivative, that's true. Well, that's bullshit. That's a method useful in some, narrow scope contexts, deadly outside them. What are UFOs? Well, what are you? You are not dissimilar. You're a stable, transcendental localization of time-space, being, the earth, the sun, right here on earth, right now. They are the same thing. There aren't any other things. So the idea, they're for us from the future. Well, there isn't anything that isn't like that. But that doesn't mean humans are using time machines to come back in time and talk to humans, though that may be relevant to some portion of the phenomena. But yeah, this is a very tricky topic, and on the internet, which is 87% deceptive garbage, 4% useful intelligence, and even has a small portion that's transcendental to both of those. The humans are likely to just collapse into single-valued thinking cohorts. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that. Oh, it doesn't exist. Yeah. Good for them. I mean, it's like a bird ripping its wings off and throwing them in the fire to talk about flying. All right, just completely nonsensical. Don't do that. That's not what having a mind is like. Or sorry, I got distracted. Oh yeah, the Blue Jays, they do the signaling thing, right? Which is they, when they know you, they swoop past your eye so that their wing comes very close to the corner of your eye, differently close. Sometimes they may actually brush that side of your face. And they're intelligent enough to know which side to do this on. And they do it on the left side, where animals generally keep their companions. Now, there are exceptions, right? Again, it's a manifold, not a single-valued thing. We may desire to have protectors on our right side, and those we protect on our left. But the right side is more associated with aggression. And if you just watch birds during certain seasons, you'll see, what did that bird do to earn the attack? Well, it passed on the right side. Shouldn't have. What was it doing? Right? It spins up vigilance. Now, UFOs are, 47 different things. And some of those things are faked by humans. Does that mean the whole thing is faked by humans? Not a chance. You know, some branch on that tree could conceivably, but unless they tell you this, and even then, not necessarily, could conceivably be humans from the future. Except that we don't even understand what future means in any reasonable sense. So to get a grasp on this phenomenon, you have to move outside the familiar human conceptual lexicons, and you have to invert the we're humans down here separate from all that up there. You know, we're really good at thinking about it. Bullshit. Nearly zero humans that are good at thinking about it. And we'll figure this out. Not fucking likely. You're not going to figure it out. You need to have a better grasp on the nature of origin and its relationship to the transcendental, and how in a layered array of womb-like manifolds, way down in the physical layer where we live, in the backwater of the physical, things seem continuous, stable, distinct, and separate. That's not what's going on, I'm telling you. And you want to have a direct experience of that, not just believe me. Of course, you do have a direct experience of that. You also have a direct experience of this inner sun. One of them is called your emotions. When you feel compassion for another being, that's the inner sun that's lighting up. But also when you dream, something's illuminating your dreams, and that's that star of origin. That is the star that's upstream from what you think of as your mind. Now, like the salmon, we can backtrace our awareness. And this is really what I think meditation is an effective, if arduous, usually arduous, practice of. Right? We can backtrace our awareness. And like the salmon who climb waterfalls to get back to their birthplace, right? This is a brilliant metaphor of our situation in consciousness with our minds, quote unquote. If we go in the direction that leads toward the light with which we're seeing, instead of the results of our seeing, we will find insight there. And you know, I've been very curious about this topic since I was quite young, because even as a child it was clear to me that, well, at first I believed my people were intelligent because I had science books and I could see people studying organisms, and I read science fiction and stuff, so I knew there were intelligent humans, it seemed. But that didn't last long, and then I realized, you know, once I saw war and prisons and things, I realized, oh shit, this planet is bad, right? We're in a bad way here. And so I hoped for contact. I mean, I hoped beyond hope. I didn't think it was possible. But you live a life, you have experiences, right? I've seen things in the sky that are anomalous. But by far the most profound experience was having a non-human intelligence linked with my mind over a period of time in 2002. And that is what lifted me out of, you know, Flatland, where most of my companions will live and die. You're just as weird as UFOs. Your weirdness and the mystery of you is native to a different layer of that which is being, or they who are being. And, imagine a concentric sphere, right? There's a core, next layer, like an everlasting gobstopper. Right? And what you're seeing when you see anything, really, but uniquely if you see or are thinking about UFOs, is you're seeing an outer layer of the sphere forming a cone and impinging on an inner layer of the sphere. We can put the inner and outer, backwards or whatever, it doesn't matter, outside or inside here. But just imagine like layer 7 forming a vortex and tunneling down to layer 3, right, where we are. It's the same, when they say we are you, there isn't any other answer. And if you could talk to a raccoon and it wasn't terrified of you because you've become a bad demonic species, it would say the same thing. So would a blade of grass, so would a tree. I am you. We are one. We are the same family. We are fingers on the hand of the same being. There isn't anything else to be, literally. There's no other position that's possible. Now you can make other positions according to your purposes. If you're frightened, that's not me, that's a scary bad thing. Well, that's what most of nature thinks about humans. But it's not because it's true, it's because of our ridiculously dissociative behavior. So grateful to have this time together to explore and learn, unconfuse ourselves, unforget the polarities of awareness, consciousness, existence, and see a little more clearly perhaps together, as I have with you today. I don't wander around thinking like this on my own. I'm a regular human when I'm on my own. So when I'm making these recordings, this is a way of me reminding myself and seeing anew what I have learned and discovered and been shown during my life path here as Darren. I wish you health and wonder, joy and beauty, unforgetting liberation and beautiful dreams. Thank you for joining me. I look forward to learning together again very soon. Please take a moment and tickle the algorithm if you enjoyed this video, or consider buying me a coffee or supporting my work. All of my work is produced for free. I give it back. It's part of how I give back to the world. No advertising, though you may see some, depending on how you're approaching my videos electronically. But yeah, I don't allow advertising on my channel, so I'm not monetized. And anyone who offers any support whatsoever is deeply appreciated and makes it possible for me to continue my work. But I'll do it even if there's no support. All blessings to you and those you love, those who love you and those they love. May your ways be wise and beautiful. Peace for now.